Hudson County View live and uncut, and I'm your host. What you see is what you get, and what you don't is better yet. John R. Heinis, of course, the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. So quite a few items of interest since before the holiday. First of all, we're going to talk about a Good Samaritan in Hoboken attempting to rescue a man who jumped in the Hudson River off the waterfront. Obviously a pretty unusual situation. I haven't seen one like that in quite a few years. Unfortunately, the man who allegedly jumped into the river initially did not survive, so we'll give you the details about what happened about that. We're also going to talk about what's going on in Jersey City. Obviously, they had their annual Independence Day celebration over at Exchange Place. So we had that show headlined by Flo Rida. He's got a number of hit singles in the early 2000s into the 2010s. So, you know, that was a guy that a lot of people were happy to see. We also saw New Jersey's own Shaquille O'Neal, a Newark native. He DJ'd under his pseudonym Diesel. We also heard from Funk Flex, who's a Hot 97 DJ, and many other local artists as well. So we'll talk a little about that. Also going to talk about the ongoing battle between Mayor Stephen Fulop and the Board of Education. Homeowners in Jersey City saw a letter hit their mailboxes this week where the mayor really just bludgeoned the Board of Education yet again, blaming them on this Q3 tax bill. So I know this is a story that we've talked about quite a few times in recent weeks, but we're going to talk about it again with this latest happening. Also going to chat more about Hoboken. They had a council meeting yesterday, and while it was a relatively short meeting by their standards, about 2 hours, quite a few things happened. For one, the Hoboken Railyard redevelopment plan finally got the redeveloper agreement approved, so that was something quite a few people were excited about. This is something that's been in the works for a minimum of a decade. They also approved their budget, and they also are moving forward on a municipal complex plan that has a proposed budget of about $192.5 million. So all that and probably a little more right after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Stevens Jersey City Ford Certified Parts and Service, located at Route 440 and Communipal Ave, is your #1 source for Ford and Lincoln automotive needs. We use certified Ford Motorcraft products to keep your Ford running in top shape. Motorcraft parts are backed with the Ford warranty, which includes a 2-year unlimited mileage guarantee. Our team will have the right Motorcraft part to ensure the best performance from your Ford or Lincoln. You can order in person at the parts counter or online. Let us help keep your Ford or Lincoln in the best shape at Stevens Jersey City Ford.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunley Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hudson County View live and uncut, John R. Heinis. So let's talk about this Good Samaritan situation that I mentioned over in the Mile Square City. So kind of a, again, unexpected and just unusual turn of events. So this was on the evening, late evening hours of July 2nd. And long story short, a Good Samaritan unsuccessfully tried to save a man who jumped in the Hudson River. And the man that unfortunately passed away was a 52-year-old Jersey City man who has not had his name released at this time. So we heard from the police department in Hoboken, and they said at 8:02 p.m. that was, again, July 2nd, 911 calls came into the police and fire departments on reports of 2 people in the river. And officers Aaron Fott and Christopher Burrell arrived on scene and noticed a man floating face down in the river. So they arrived, that's the Hoboken Fire Department arrived, and they noticed that one man was climbing out of the river. Obviously, this was the man that tried to save him. Turned out he was actually a 63-year-old Hoboken resident that jumped in, quickly in hopes of trying to save him. Unfortunately, those efforts were unsuccessful. So, based on witness statements, there does not appear to be anything suspicious about the entry into the water at this time. And according to Public Safety Director Kevin Ferrante, the Good Samaritan told police that he saw the man jump into the river, and the family of the deceased has been notified by the Jersey City Police Department. Again, very sad and unfortunate turn of events, so, our thoughts and prayers with the family and friends in that one. So we're just going to move right along to a completely unrelated story. We're going to talk about this July 4th incident that's under investigation. This is where a Union City police officer shot a man with a knife, and now that's under investigation by the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. So this is actually the second time in the past month that we saw somebody shot in North Hudson by a police officer. You guys remember it was well covered across the state, and even some New York outlets picked it up, where on June 3rd, a West New York police officer fatally shot a man after they responded to a domestic violence incident. And a police officer was actually shot in the course of that wild situation. Fortunately, he's okay. He's at home on the mend. So anyway, about this latest incident, again, July 4th. So let's talk about what happened over in Union City. According to a preliminary investigation, at about 7:49 p.m., Union City police officers were flagged down in the area of 23rd Street and Bergen Line Avenue on reports of a stabbing incident. So those of you that are particularly social media savvy, which I imagine is quite a few of you, on HUD Post, they had a video that they put on Twitter. There was a guy with a knife aggressively pursuing someone in front of the Centro Bar. That's 2216 Bergen Line Avenue. And no one actually got stabbed. There wasn't really a fight, but the guy was just chasing after another guy with a knife drawn. So it was kind of a really unexpected scene. It's something that you just wouldn't expect on the 4th of July of all places and times. So anyway, responding officers eventually located that suspect. They identified him as Jesus Suazo. He's 58 years old, of Union City. And during the encounter, a uniformed officer fired his weapon, striking Suazo, and a knife was recovered near him. And somehow, not exactly clear where the bullet or bullets struck the man, but he's alive and is in stable condition at a local hospital. They didn't identify which hospital he was taken to. So Suazo's been charged with aggravated assault, possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, and unlawful possession of a weapon, due to, of course, wielding the knife. Now, I spoke to a number of law enforcement folks about this, and they spoke under the condition of anonymity since they were not authorized to speak of the matter, but I've learned that the officer that fired a service weapon is Lieutenant Omar Hernandez. He's a 26-year veteran of the force who's part of the Emergency Services Unit, and according to the State Use of Force database, he does not have any prior incidents. So the HCPO Shooting Response Team and Public Integrity Unit immediately notified the State AG's Office of the Use of Force by Police, and that's, of course, pursuant to the Attorney General guidelines. When the day after this happened, actually that was yesterday, I filed an Open Public Records Act request seeking the police dashboard and body camera footage of the incident. That request got denied maybe about an hour ago, so we're going to have an attorney, if not 2 or 3 attorneys, take a look at that and see what action we could take to get this video released in a timely fashion. So when we get an update on that, I'm happy to let you guys know, of course. Moving forward yet again, let's talk about Mayor Stephen Fulop and the Board of Education. Obviously, this is not a new fight, right? These folks haven't gotten along for quite some time, at least a few years to put it on a short timeline. So again, as I mentioned at the top of the program, there's this letter that hit mailboxes, and the mayor essentially said, you can't blame the city for this. This is all the Board of Education's fault. But let me read you an excerpt or two. So in 2021, we successfully reduced municipal taxes by an average of $1,000 to offset the Board of Education's massive tax hike by utilizing a one-time infusion of federal COVID-19 stimulus funds. Our objective by doing this was to try and up the Board of Education to have more time to sort through their finances. Unfortunately, that didn't happen once again. The Board of Education is imposing a significant tax increase as reflected in this bill. Again, we've talked about this topic quite a few times, I think at least 3 times in the past 2 to 3 weeks. And, it's a big tax hike for a lot of residents. This Q3 bill is as much as a 30% increase for some residents. And, people obviously want answers. The Board of Education certainly did have a fairly hefty tax increase this year, $973 million, actually nearly $974 million budget. Annual tax increase, $1,608 on a home evaluated at $460,000. As far as the municipal level goes, it's a $695 million budget. And It's a tax increase of about $1,030 per household, assessed at $470,000. So this is obviously something that we're going to see continue for many weeks, if not years. And we're going to keep you updated on the latest and greatest. You remember last week the mayor said that he'd like to see the school board elections back in April. So we're going to see if anyone's going to take the initiative to get a referendum in November. If anyone decides to do so, they got to submit their petitions by August 25th. With that, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in one of our many high-rise towers. With amenities such as the on-site Newport Path, light rail, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Kohl's, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams and Acme Supermarket are just outside your front door. A health and fitness center, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. Enjoy the New York skyline from our waterfront and various parks. Manhattan is just one pass stop away, or a quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Looking to visit? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. For more information, visit us at newportnj.com. Make lasting memories to cherish forever. It's incredible. It's you, Newport. Live like you want.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John R. Heinis. So also, while we're on the topic of the Jersey City Board of Education, I guess it's as good a time as any to say that we have a new superintendent officially. That's, of course, as of June 30th, but, given the holiday, it may have got lost in the shuffle for some. So just wanted to point out Dr. Norma Fernandez, who's been in the acting role since January 10th, is now officially removed her interim title and is now going to be serving in that role till at least 2025, assuming that, she decides to fulfill her contract that was approved by the board last week. And, there wasn't really much drama here. I mean, very little, if any. Many people came out and spoke in favor, including the Jersey City Education President, Ron Greco. We also heard from former Board of Education President Musab Ali, as well as Hudson County Clerk E. Junior Maldonado, saying that, she's a great pick, so on and so forth. So the only thing that I think is really worth mentioning that we haven't previously spoke about is Trustee Alexander Hamilton said that the board failed here because they said, and they passed a resolution in January, the same day that they made Dr. Fernandez the interim superintendent, they were going to do a national search. Obviously, they didn't do it. And, we basically said that that was a failure for the board as the whole. His exact words, I look at this board and I think that as a collective board, we failed on this issue because now it's June, and I made noise about this earlier and I got shot down for doing so even after we passed the resolution. I'm not saying at the end of the day, everybody, that Dr. Fernandez is not qualified to do this job, because I think that she is. What I'm saying is if you don't look, you don't know. I didn't marry the first girl I kissed either. Okay, and that's funny, but you still got to do your due diligence. Nevertheless, the measure passed unanimously, and her contract is going to run through June 30th, 2025. And there was a story that we had in May, and that said that a pay raise approved at that time at her salary at $185,583. Do not have the parameters of the full contract yet, but when we have them, certainly we will report them. So with that, let's take a jump down the road to the Mile Square City. So pretty quick one, but I guess in terms of the long-term plans of the city, this is a pretty big deal. The council approved the redevelop agreement with Elcor for the Railyard plan. This is something that we've been talking about since Dawn Mayer was first elected, and that was obviously well over a decade ago now. And this is finally, we finally moved ahead, and it was approved unanimously, 8-0. Very minimal discussion, maybe 10, 15 minutes tops before everybody casts their aye vote. And so what is this project? Obviously, it's went through many iterations. This is going to include a new bus terminal, a new ferry terminal, a 20-story, 365,000 square foot office building, and a 389-unit residential building with 20% of those units being made affordable. That's the long story short. And again, it's a long time coming, as many noted yesterday. And it's after a lot of community feedback. It's after, I think this is at least the fourth draft of the plan. And Elcor is going to be the developer, and this is also going to be done in conjunction with the state. I think perhaps the most noteworthy part of this project is the New Jersey budget that was recently approved at the end of last month had allocated $176 million toward this redevelopment, so certainly not a small dollar amount. And, that drew praise from Councilwoman at Large Emily Jabor and Fifth Ward Councilman Phil Cohen at last night's meeting. And beyond that, there's not a heck of a lot to say, except this is a long timeline, right? I mean, this is supposed to begin at the beginning of 2023, but this is going to go on till 2029. I mean, you heard it just a moment ago. Given the scope of this project, this is not an open and shut case. So, really, really big deal for the First Ward and really the whole city as a whole. So with that, we're going to talk about this budget discussion. And it passed. It's a $131,666,700.96 budget with a 2.56% tax hike. However, due to the county formula, due to the county budget, the tax bill for the city of Hoboken residents will actually be flat, meaning basically no tax increase one way or the other, no tax decrease one way or the other. So it was a 6-2 vote. Sixth Ward Councilwoman Jen Giattino was absent, and we saw Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher, as well as Third Ward Council President Mike Russo, the Council President, vote no. We're going to hear a little from the Council President right here on why he felt this was not the right proposal to vote for, and then we're going to take another break.
With that amount of money, and with some more money from the parking utility, and potentially $100,000 of the surplus in our water utility, we could have looked at something under 1% on the municipal levy, which would overall reduce taxes for the residents in the city of Hoboken. It's disappointing that we chose not to do that, especially knowing that we're looking at those revenues for next year. We could have used those this year. As Councilman Reno said, this is a difficult time for everybody. So I cannot, in good conscience, support 2.5% municipal tax increase. I never have. Last year we had a 2% decrease, and we're eradicating that now. We're taking that small little savings that we gave to every resident in the city of Hoboken, we're taking that back this year. And that for me is just unacceptable. So I appreciate all the efforts. I absolutely agree we're in a better place than we were. 5.6% was absolutely, I don't think ever was going to happen. But right now, I can support a 2.6% increase.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union.
I make this look good, don't I?
Who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick. Built to defy expectations.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John R. Heinis. So let's talk about this municipal complex plan. Obviously, we've been talking about this for at least a quarter of the year, if not more. But this is something that at the end of February, the city spokeswoman told me that this was part of the plan for the Poggi Press site. That's at 1501 Adams Street. And this is at first it was supposed to be a public safety complex. It was going to be the police department, the fire department, Office of Emergency Management, and the Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Now it's evolved into this $102.5 million municipal complex, and it would also include a municipal court, council chambers, Department of Public Works. Let's see, you'd also have a pool, you'd also have a recreation center, and I'm sure there's quite a few other amenities that I'm just not remembering off the top of my head. But it would be obviously a very massive, large-scale project. And the city has said they've covered, roughly about 3/4 of the costs through potential agreements with developers, as well as partnerships that go beyond just the private-public ones. All budget line items obviously are going to be a part of it, and there's inevitably going to be some sort of tax increase. We don't really know exactly how big or small. I know there were projections that it was maybe, I think I'm going to say it was about $100 a month for the next 30 years. It was something that was kind of abstract, I believe. But nonetheless, regardless, this was something that the council approved last night. And I think the reason that this was notable that it got approval was we actually heard from Charles Poggi, who owns the site. And while I don't have his remarks in front of me, what he said was basically that allowing the city to do an end around with the Hudson County Improvement Authority and just basically steal his property would just be a huge disservice to not only him, but to the residents of the city. And they'd also be basically abdicating their duties by not actually being the ones to take point on this and basically handing it off to the HCIA. So we're going to clip that, probably within an hour after this program ends. I mean, the write-up's just 90% of the way there. Just didn't quite get a chance to wrap that up before this. But nonetheless, it passed 5-3. As I just mentioned, Councilwoman Giattino was not in attendance last night, and she voted no on this bond issue throughout the course of the year. This is something that got 5-4 approval. There was a $44 million bond that they would have needed to use eminent domain on the Poggi Press site. But for a bond to get approved for a 9-member governing body, you need 6 votes. You need a supermajority. They only had 5. Giattino consistently voted no. 4th Ward Councilman Ruben Ramos consistently voted no. 2nd Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher and 1st Ward Councilman Mike DeFusco all against. So obviously they were not going to get the 6 votes, and what this HCIA resolution, project, plan, however you want to phrase it, would do, it would allow the city to hypothetically move forward without actually getting that 6th vote. Obviously the majority would rule, and Mayor Ravi Bala's allies on the council make up 5 votes typically. So looks like that's how it went last night. And now the interesting part though is, and Council President Mike Russo pointed this out, that we don't know what the parameters are going to be of this agreement. And, frankly, I don't think anybody knows yet, because it's been such a long time since anything has got on in the Mile Square City and the county of this magnitude. Again, $192.5 million projected cost. Obviously that's not chump change. So I'm sure the county's not going to do this for free. And I'm sure the city is going to have some obligations put on their heads as well. And, I'm sure there's going to be a strict timeline to negotiate things. So, that remains to be seen. This actual resolution, though, also bears mentioning that it doesn't actually do much other than kickstart the process. This allows the HCIA, as the resolution specifically says, to acquire certain property and interest therein. Obviously, that's pretty vague, but I think it's obviously intentionally written that way so they can start working on the parameters of this agreement if this is something that the county decides they want to pursue. Now, the whole reason that we're in this situation is there was that Monarchs settlement with Iron State Development, and as part of that agreement, they have to move their Department of Public Works facility from 256 Observer Highway to a new location by November of 2024. Obviously, we've kind of been stuck in quicksand here for the past few months, so obviously there's a lot of people in the administration that want to see this start moving yesterday, but as of now, we don't know where it's going, but we're going to keep in touch, obviously, with the city officials and the county officials. And when we hear more, we're going to let you know. And of course, I encourage you to check out that write-up and video shortly after this program ends. With that, we're going to take our final commercial break. Be right back.
Panepinto Properties, Jersey City, shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces and addresses your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panepintodevelopment.com. Panepinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Not everyone celebrates the birth of a baby. You have options. Don't panic. New Jersey has safe havens for unwanted infants. Leave the baby with staff at any hospital, ER, police or fire station, or rescue squad. Call the number on your screen for safe haven locations or go to www.njsafehaven.org. No shame, no blame, no names. Safe Haven.
Hudson County View live and uncut. John R. Heinis. So let's also just briefly talk about the inaugurations last week. So that was on Friday. So in Weehawken, we saw Mayor Richard Turder elected to his 9th term. Obviously, 8 full terms makes him the longest serving mayor currently elected in Hudson County. And the 9th term looks like he's going to go a full 36 years. So that's that's certainly a long docket, I should say, of public service. So he returns to the dais with 1st Ward Councilwoman Carmela Silvestri Arrett, 2nd Ward Councilwoman Rosemary Lavigno, 3rd Ward Councilman Robert Sosa, and Councilman at Large David Curtis. So that was at City Hall, and had all their friends and family on hand. The only thing that I'll mention beyond that is the mayor talked about fixing Park Avenue, working on completing the Waterfront Park, having electric charging stations coming. He mentioned hybrid police cars, and he also praised the council for their honesty and integrity. So we'll leave it there. Congratulations to them on another full 4 years. And of course, in Bayonne, we had a much more elaborate ceremony. This was Mayor Jimmy Davis's 3rd term, and actually it was his 3rd clean sweep in a row, which is of course extremely difficult to do in Hudson County and really anywhere else. But so that they went like a full 2.5 hours. They had a band, they had a few singers, they had quite a few guest speakers. And at the end of the day, I think the important points here are that we have a new council president. Obviously, in the May 10th municipal elections, we saw Sharon Ashdodrowski challenge Mayor Jimmy Davis. And there was, of course, a 3rd candidate in the race, Dr. Mitchell Brown. But the real fight was between Ashdodrowski, who ran with Davis twice, and the incumbent mayor. And it was a little closer than some expected. But at the end of the day, Davis avoided a runoff by just over 100 votes. And that was in the books, obviously. So with that said, in order to run for mayor, Ashdodrowski had to vacate her at-large council seat, as well as the council presidency. So now we have the new elected council president is 3rd Ward Councilman Gary LaPalooza. Not a big surprise. He's the longest tenured councilman in the Peninsula City. And, a lot of people would say this one is overdue. So with that, I'll just take you to a couple of his remarks. He said, in part, "I can't emphasize enough the value of creating local jobs, and thousands more are coming very soon. I'm proud of being an integral part of rebuilding Bayonne." Obviously, they were talking about something such as refurbishing Russell Golding Park. He was also talking about, that new UPS facility coming to the Motby area. They were talking about the Movio Studio ferry service, things along that nature that are supposed to be an economic boon for the city. And of course, we heard from the mayor, and he talked about these changes and more. And when he was talking about these former industrial sites becoming residential developments, he said, it's great to see them take advantage of light rail access, waterfront views, or both. And he also noted it was an industrial center for a long time. It was a military site for close to a century. Change may be uncomfortable, it may be upsetting, it may be unsettling, but change is necessary, and change is another name for growth. He even noted that the Bayonne Bridge has changed, and it's nothing like the way it used to be. And he joked that everything in government, with the exception of mask mandates, takes longer than you think it will. And, that seems like a pretty true statement. So the only other thing that happened there that I think is worth mentioning, they did appoint a lot of the same directors to another term. Of course, one notable change, though, we saw last week that the business administrator, Melissa Matthews, had the opportunity to take her old job. She decided she was not going to do that and resigned. So they obviously needed a new business administrator. So assistant counsel to the city, Donna Russo, will be serving as acting business administrator for the foreseeable future. With that, ladies and gentlemen, our last show for the summer season will be next week. So we hope you'll join us. We'll see you then.